Something is shifting, and you can feel it, can't you? A quiet electricity humming in the background of your spirit. A pressure in the air that wasn't there before. As if the universe itself is holding its breath, waiting for what comes next. This isn't your imagination. This is the moment before destiny turns. Because this Sunday is not just another day on the calendar. It is a spiritual threshold. A cosmic doorway. A point in time where the divine masculine, the one who ran, who resisted, who hid from his own truth, will feel the pull in a way he can no longer escape. Something ancient is waking inside him. Something his mind cannot explain, but his soul cannot deny. And while you may not see the signs yet, the energy is already in motion. Your silence is echoing in his dreams. Your growth is stirring his awakening. Your vibration is calling him home. This is the Sunday when the runner becomes the seeker. When resistance collapses into recognition. When fate stops whispering and starts pulling. So take a breath. Open your heart. And prepare yourself. Because what's coming next isn't subtle. It isn't accidental. And it isn't small. This Sunday will be unforgettable. The moment the divine masculine begins chasing you. Now, let's step into the energy that's already aligning your paths. There comes a moment on your spiritual path when you quietly realize that you have outgrown the version of yourself who once chased, waited, or tried to hold the connection together through fear. It happens without force, without drama, without a declaration. It begins as a soft shift inside your heart, a moment where you finally feel the difference between attachment and truth. Your emotional body no longer reacts from panic or longing. Instead, it settles into a deeper clarity, the kind that rises naturally when you stop trying to control what is already divinely guided. This clarity is not coldness. It's not indifference. It's expansion. When your inner world grows, it expands beyond the old patterns that once kept you small. Your frequency rises, not through effort, but through awakening. Suddenly, the need for reassurance falls away because you've discovered something far more powerful than external validation, the peace that comes from trusting your own spirit. You begin to understand that what is meant for you will always recognize you, with or without your pursuit. As your energy shifts, the old dynamic becomes impossible to return to. You can no longer shrink yourself into the vibration you once occupied. You can no longer fit into the version of the relationship where you carried more than your soul was meant to hold. The timeline you once lived in dissolves the moment you step into alignment with your higher self. And yes, he feels the shift. Not with his mind, but with his spirit. The energy he left behind is not the energy he meets now. You're no longer waiting at the place he walked away from. You've risen. You've expanded. You've evolved. And the moment you outgrow the old timeline, the universe begins writing a new one that matches who you are becoming, not who you once were. There is a sacred moment in the spiritual connection when his soul begins to recognize your evolution long before his mind can make sense of it. He may not have the words to explain what he feels, and he may not fully understand the shifts taking place within him, but something deep and ancient inside him senses the change in you. Your glow, your peace, and the effortless calm you now carry, they register as spiritual signals. They touch him in places he has avoided, awaken parts of himself he thought were long asleep, and remind him of a version of love that cannot be found anywhere else. Even if he looks unchanged on the outside, something profound is happening within him. His higher self becomes more active than his ego. Subtle whispers rise in his awareness, urging him to slow down, to reflect, to look inward. These nudges do not come from fear or confusion, they come from soul recognition. They are reminders of the bond that exists beyond physical circumstance, the bond that vibrates on a spiritual frequency he can no longer ignore. He may feel restless, sensitive, nostalgic, or unexpectedly emotional without understanding why. This is the soul working long before the mind catches up. His spirit feels the shift in your energy, the peace you've anchored into, the detachment that comes from healing, the sovereignty you now embody. It feels different. It feels powerful. And it calls him toward reconnection, not through urgency, but through remembrance. The truth is simple. the soul always leads first. The personality, the ego, the mind, they follow slowly, hesitantly, sometimes resisting. But the soul moves with certainty. And in this divine unfolding, his soul recognizes your evolution as the invitation it has been waiting for, guiding him back not just to you, but to the truest version of himself. There comes a stage on the spiritual journey where the universe begins to remove everything that no longer aligns with the future being prepared for you. This isn't always gentle. It isn't always comfortable. But it is always sacred. When a divine connection is part of your soul's blueprint, the universe begins clearing the path long before the physical union takes place. People fall away, situations collapse, old patterns dissolve, not because you did something wrong, but because your energy is outgrowing everything rooted in illusion. Anything that distracts you or him from truth begins to break apart. Relationships built on fear, comfort, or avoidance start to crumble. Attachments that once felt stable suddenly feel heavy. The karmic cycles that kept either of you trapped in repetition begin to surface, demanding release. These moments can feel overwhelming, but they are not punishment. They are purification. A divine pruning. The universe is removing what cannot travel into the next chapter. These are the tower moments, the unexpected shifts, the emotional disruptions, the endings that feel abrupt yet strangely necessary. They happen on his side and sometimes on yours. The purpose is not destruction, but realignment. The universe breaks down the false so the truth can finally stand without obstruction. It clears out the noise, the distractions, the karmic weight, leaving only what is authentic, destined, and aligned. This clearing creates space for growth, space for clarity, space for transformation. Space for both souls to rise into the vibration required for divine union. What falls away was never meant to stay. What dissolves was never part of the highest timeline. And what remains is what the universe has chosen, protected, and preserved for the journey ahead. Trust the breakdowns. They are the silent preparation for the blessing. There comes a profound moment on the divine journey when the feminine's energy becomes the very blueprint for transformation. Without force, without words, and without trying to lead, your vibrational evolution naturally becomes the template for his awakening. As you rise into emotional maturity, inner peace, and spiritual clarity, your energy begins doing the work that the mind could never accomplish. You stop trying to pull him forward, yet your healing quietly invites him into his own. He unconsciously starts to model the stability you now embody. Your emotional regulation becomes a mirror showing him the parts of himself that are still reactive, wounded, or fragmented. Your softness reveals where he has hardened. Your authenticity exposes where he has hidden. Your centeredness highlights where he has abandoned his own truth. Without knowing how or why, he feels drawn to rise, not for you, but because your energy awakens the version of him he was always meant to become. Your frequency teaches him what real love feels like. Not the kind built on fear, chasing, or control, but the kind built on presence, connection, and soul recognition. Your healed energy becomes a silent guide showing him the difference between intensity and intimacy, between attachment and alignment, between longing and embodiment. You become the energetic map leading him back to himself. This is the power of the feminine in her healed state. You shift timelines simply by existing in your truth. You no longer push the connection, you elevate it. You no longer carry the weight of two souls, you stand firmly in your own. And in doing so, you activate the masculine's deepest spiritual memory, that divine love is not something to fear, but something to return to. You don't heal him. You inspire his soul to remember. There comes a time in the spiritual connection when his heart begins to communicate in ways his mind cannot deny. Even before he consciously understands what is happening, the universe begins speaking to him through synchronicities. He starts noticing repeating numbers, symbols, and signs that seem to follow him everywhere. At first, he brushes them off as coincidence, but the frequency grows. The timing becomes too precise, the messages too aligned. Something in him feels awakened, nudged, and guided. Memories of you begin surfacing at the exact moments he tries to avoid the connection. Your name appears unexpectedly. Your energy crosses his mind during the most ordinary moments, in conversation, while driving, in the middle of the night. It's not nostalgia. It's soul memory resurfacing. His dreams intensify, becoming more vivid and emotionally charged. He wakes with a feeling he can't shake, the sense that you're closer in spirit than in the physical world. Everyday objects begin to feel symbolic. A song he hasn't heard in years suddenly plays at the perfect moment. A place you once visited appears again in his path. Even strangers repeat words that stir something inside him. Each moment becomes a soft whisper from the divine realm, guiding him back to the truth he tried to bury. These are spiritual breadcrumbs leading him toward awakening. This is not imagination or wishful thinking, it's communication beyond the mind. His higher self is speaking louder now, bypassing logic and reaching straight into his heart. Synchronicities are the language of the soul, and he is now becoming sensitive to them. As he follows these signs, he begins reconnecting with the energy that once felt like home, you. The universe is guiding him gently, reminding him that what is meant cannot be forgotten. There is a powerful moment in the divine connection when your energy withdraws, and his shadow finally comes to the surface. This shift doesn't happen out of anger or punishment, it happens because your soul has evolved beyond the vibration of carrying him. When your energy is no longer holding space for both of you, he is left alone with emotions he avoided for years. What he once pushed aside now stands before him with full force. The loneliness he begins to feel is different from any loneliness he has known. It isn't the absence of people or attention. It's the absence of your frequency, the energetic warmth, comfort, and emotional safety you once radiated toward him. That absence creates an ache, a void he cannot explain. It forces him to confront feelings he never processed: fear of intimacy, fear of loss, fear of unworthiness, fear of being truly seen. Your silence becomes the mirror he cannot look away from. Without your energy cushioning his insecurities, his unhealed wounds rise sharply to the surface: abandonment wounds, childhood patterns, emotional defenses, and unresolved grief. For the first time, he feels the weight of what he's been running from. The distractions lose power. The illusions break. The coping mechanisms collapse. This is his spiritual descent, his initiation into awakening. The pain he feels is not a sign of losing you, it is a sign of meeting himself. Your detachment activates his healing crisis, not to punish him but to liberate him from the patterns that kept him disconnected from his own heart. He must face his shadow so he can return from a place of truth, not fear. Your withdrawal is the catalyst for his transformation. Your silence becomes the medicine his soul didn't know it needed. There comes a point on the divine path where the masculine begins his true self-reflection journey. This is not triggered by logic or guilt, it is activated by the soul. When the energy between you shifts and your presence is no longer holding his emotional weight, something within him wakes up. He begins to question the choices he made, not from a place of regret alone, but from a deeper place of awareness. The walls he once built so confidently now feel heavy, unnecessary, and isolating. He starts analyzing why he ran when the connection felt the most real. He asks himself what he was hiding from, what fears he was protecting, and what truths he was refusing to face. In moments of quiet, he realizes how much he suppressed: his feelings, his intuition, his vulnerability. He sees how his avoidance was never truly about you, but about the parts of himself he wasn't ready to confront. Slowly, light begins to touch the areas of his heart he once kept in darkness. Patterns he denied for years now become obvious. He notices the cycles of leaving, withdrawing, shutting down, and pretending he didn't care. And for the first time, instead of running from these realizations, he sits with them. Accountability begins to take the place of avoidance. He feels the emotional consequences of his choices not as punishment, but as revelation. And then the truth arrives softly: your love was never pressure. It was presence. It was clarity. It was a mirror showing him what real connection feels like. He begins to understand that what he interpreted as intensity was actually truth, a truth he wasn't ready to receive. This journey of self-reflection is the turning point. It is where the masculine stops running from himself and begins awakening to love. There comes a moment in the feminine's evolution when her boundaries become her silent invitation, the quiet doorway through which the masculine is called to rise. These boundaries are not built from fear or defensiveness, but from self-awareness and emotional maturity. You no longer bend your standards to be understood, accepted, or chosen. Instead, you stand firmly in your truth, knowing that real love can only meet you at the level of your self-respect. You stop explaining your worth because you have grown into it. You embody it. Your energy no longer reaches outward for validation, it sits in sovereignty, grounded and radiant. This shift creates a frequency that is powerful yet peaceful. And without realizing it, you begin teaching him, not through words, but through the vibration you now hold. Your boundaries signal safety. Not safety for him to act however he wants, but safety for him to finally become honest, open, and accountable. He feels the difference between the version of you who overgave and the version of you who now gives from alignment. He recognizes that your energy requires reciprocity because anything less cannot survive in your field anymore. What he once interpreted as distance now feels like direction. What he once saw as withdrawal now feels like wisdom. Your boundaries are not walls keeping him out. They are invitations for him to rise into a higher version of himself. They tell him, silently but clearly, if you want to stand beside me, you must ascend with me. And this is where the divine magic happens. By choosing yourself, you create space for him to choose growth. By honoring your truth, you guide him toward his. The feminine's boundaries do not push love away, they pull the right love forward, and inspire the masculine to meet her in the place where real union can finally unfold. There is a sacred stage in the divine connection where the reunion energy begins building long before anything shifts in the physical world. This is the phase where the souls start moving toward each other in the 5D, even while the 3D reality may appear still or unchanged. Energetic merging intensifies quietly, subtly, but unmistakably. You feel it in the waves of emotion that wash over you without warning, the warmth spreading through your chest, the sudden heart activations, the sense that something is aligning beyond your conscious control. These sensations are not random. They are signals from the soul. Your energy is syncing with his again, weaving together in the spiritual realm to prepare for the next chapter. As you feel these changes internally, he too feels a pull he cannot ignore. He becomes increasingly drawn back to the memory of you, not just the image of you, but the vibration of you. You drift into his mind at the most unexpected moments, and each time, the feeling becomes stronger, more insistent, more familiar. His intuition begins nudging him with growing urgency. The connection starts strengthening day by day in ways neither of you can logically explain. You may feel waves of peace, surges of longing, or an expanding sense of inner knowing. He may feel restlessness, nostalgia, or an unshakable emotional pull toward you. The souls are aligning, preparing, communicating, even when the physical world seems silent. This is the truth of divine connections. The physical reunion is always preceded by an energetic convergence. The universe orchestrates the merging in spirit first, ensuring both hearts are ready, receptive, and aligned. By the time the 3D world catches up, the reunion is not a question, it is a culmination of what your souls have already chosen. Trust this build-up. It is the prelude to union. Divine timing is one of the most sacred elements of a spiritual connection. It does not operate on human urgency, fear, or longing, it moves according to frequency. Union happens only when both souls reach a level of emotional vibration that is compatible. Not perfect. Not flawless. But aligned. This alignment is not about eliminating every wound or achieving some imagined state of spiritual perfection. Instead, it is about reaching a shared resonance where both hearts can finally meet with honesty, openness, and readiness. Your healing becomes the quiet catalyst that synchronizes with his awakening. As you rise into clarity, inner peace, and self-awareness, he begins his journey inward as well. Your evolution activates something deep in his spirit, creating a ripple effect that guides him toward his own growth. He might move more slowly, more hesitantly, or more silently, but he is moving nonetheless. When you shift, the connection shifts. When you heal, he awakens. This spiritual symmetry is not coincidence, it is divine design. The universe orchestrates the reunion with exquisite precision. Things fall apart at the exact moment they must. People exit your lives at the perfect time. New opportunities open, old patterns dissolve, and your timelines begin to weave themselves together again. Every delay, every silence, every detour is part of the larger choreography. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is accidental. And when the moment of alignment arrives, nothing can prevent the connection from unfolding. Not distance. Not silence. Not fear. The universe removes every obstacle that once stood between you and clears a path where there was none. Because divine timing is not about waiting, it is about becoming. When both souls reach the frequency of truth, reunion becomes not just possible, but inevitable. And there you have it. The energy is shifting, the timelines are aligning, and this Sunday marks a turning point your soul has been quietly preparing for. The divine masculine is waking up, feeling the pull, and stepping into the frequency he once ran from. If this message resonated with you, if you felt that spark of recognition in your chest, it's because this is your confirmation. The universe is already arranging the moment. All you have to do now is stay aligned, stay grounded, and stay open to what's coming. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, I am ready for divine alignment. Or, I welcome the energy of reunion. Your words are a vibration, and speaking them anchors the energy deeper into your reality. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another twin flame message. Thank you for being here, for trusting your journey, and for allowing this space to guide you. Your story is unfolding in divine timing, and the best chapter is just beginning. I'll see you in the next video. Stay aligned. Stay radiant. Stay ready.